Hi, I'm here with Jabez, who is a friend of mine from EO years ago, and just an awesome entrepreneur person. And really glad to have you here, Jabez, with on the Focus Forward Business podcast. I'm sturdymckee, business coach and advisor, and your host for the Focus Forward Business podcast. And thanks very much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Sturdy. I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too, man. So I'm going to let you tell people a little bit more about you and who you are and what you do, because you've got a number of things going on right now. I really like, by the way, the Apple Jacks thing. I thought that was really cool. I know you've got a lot of cool stuff going on, but here, why don't you take it away?
Thanks. It's interesting. I think that as entrepreneurs or leaders in general, you find sometimes when your world just gets rocked, once you can pick up the pieces and kind of like shake off the dust a little bit, things do come back. You find pathways and opportunities and things that you wouldn't have found or taken before. My wife and I were running a tuition-free boarding high school for underserved girls down in San Diego. And then, COVID hit. And for those that haven't heard of that, I don't know where they've been, but yeah, so that was, we had to close down our school, and, you can't really run a boarding school with a pandemic going on. And our board decided that we weren't going to be able to reopen this year, and, kind of everything spiraled, super fast. And
wow. Okay.
We, spent months just kind of taking care of our students, making sure they were safe and secure, and winding down program stuff, and not the uncertainty of what's going to happen next. And, Becky and I stayed on and kept working. And then eventually we're like, look, this may not turn into anything, and we might have to go do something else. And so Becky went and started her own thing. And then I started doing some consulting on the side. I think that's what you default to when you're like that, when you have that oh shit moment, and you're like, what am I going to do? And you're like, all right, I'm going to go and, I'm going to go just get some consulting clients and just get a little income coming in. And then next thing I know, I land a CEO role and a partnership at Apple Jacks, which is an online tutoring platform to connect credentialed teachers with parents for tutoring. And we do online and in-person tutoring, but we're just a platform to facilitate, the connection. Right. And it really, I feel really lucky. I stayed in education, so I'm still getting to maintain those relationships and help out and still be a part of education. And now I have a job, running a company. So here we go.
Well, yeah. I mean, how long has Apple Jacks been around?
36 hours. No, I'm just kidding. No, Apple been around for.
And you already have 400 teachers signed up.
we yeah, right. Hours. That was crazy. So yeah, no, we've been they've been a company for a little over a year. The platform's only been live since this summer. Okay. And so it's still in the kind of almost the beta phase, really. And then, my first week when I took the helm, I said, well, we got to get some more users on here. Like, let's go break this thing. Mm-hmm. And so, we added, several hundred teachers over a weekend, and off to the races we go.
You kind of literally did that over a weekend, like 72 hours. It
was a 72-hour campaign. Yeah.
400 teachers.
Cost $0. And yeah. That was a fun one.
Wow. Well, I mean, you might want to share with us how you were able to get that kind of buy-in, that traction that quickly. But
yeah, no, I mean, I'd be happy to. It was interesting. I spent a good week just really thinking about the problem. And that partly came from one of my EO forum groups. And we were sitting down, and I was talking with a bunch of other business owners. And I was like, man, you know what I forgot to do in my last project is spend time thinking. Like just quiet time, no podcast on, no, just an hour or a half hour of just walking and just let my mind wander. And I was like, how am I going to tackle this teacher problem and get teachers to want to join our platform? And I was like, oh, I'll run a job ad saying you need to make extra money. We got a platform where you can go, you set your own hourly rate. You can come and you can go have access to parents and you can do tutoring. We're not an employer, but we can help you get access to work. And And honestly, that's literally pretty much what the ad said. Like, it was like, I wouldn't say the worst written ad, but since I didn't know like how well it was going to work, I just kind of like, whatever. Like,
we got this thing.
Come on, we got this thing over here. I'll bury the link at the bottom. I don't even like, really almost like no call to action. And then also just sort of blown up in my inbox. I would have turned off notifications if I had known what was going to happen, because then I'm getting hundreds of emails every day. Like every 5 minutes, another email's coming, and people are just signing up like gangbusters. And so
awesome.
I was like, oh my gosh. And then I started thinking, how else can I use this same concept of if you need access to a resource,
right,
and treat that as an employment opportunity. Not making me the employer, but treat the access to the resource as an employment opportunity. I'm going to try this in all sorts of other ways to try to drum up leads in business. And
well, no, that's great, because they're obviously looking for something similar, and you're kind of providing an alternative that isn't, traditional employment, but hey, this might satisfy your needs, kind of deal.
Yeah, and I think you could use it as a targeting for all sorts of stuff, getting yourself in front of all sorts of companies. The employees of those companies. So, and I haven't figured out how to do that yet, but that's next.
No, that's genius. Okay, cool. So let's go back a ways. How did you get started in business in the first place? What was your first business, and why in the world did you strike out on your own?
Oh God. When I was in high school, I wanted to open up a espresso drive-through stand. And this is in the 90s. It's in mid 90s. And there was a latte stand that we used to drive by. And I was like, I want to open up one of those. I was like, that just seems like it's a really cool idea. So my mentor in high school, I was a terrible high school student. I didn't even graduate from high school. But I was very, very, very fortunate that I had a teacher who he owned 2 companies. And he would do the companies for 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon. And then he was a teacher. And he just loved to teach. Amazing guy, Art Dolan, incredible influence in my life. And he took me under his wings. I cut school a lot, and I was almost never at school. And he said, well, would you meet every Wednesday after class for 20 minutes and we'll talk about business? And I said, great, that sounds awesome. And so, he mentored me all my sophomore, junior, and senior year. And my junior year, I said, I think I got this idea. So he said, write a business plan. I wrote a business plan. He said, all right, well, now you got to go pay for it. And I was like, crap. So I started going door to door, because I figured out if I had $25,000, I could probably get a loan. And so I figured, I lived in Spokane, Washington at the time. There's like 250,000 people lived there. I was like, well, if I could give 1% of the population, give me $10, I got this thing. So I took my little business plan and I made a rewards card. So if you gave me $10, you got a rewards card for a future cup of coffee. And I went door to door, and I just started.
This is like Kickstarter before there was a Kickstarter.
I would have loved Kickstarter. That would have been awesome.
That would have made it a lot quicker and easier.
This was me and my kicks, just me and my kicks walking around town. And so I just knocked on doors, and like no one would give me $10, right? Because here's this like sniveling, like acne covered 15-year-old junior walking around like, excuse me, will you give me $10 to invest in my coffee stand? And they're like, buzz off, kid, like whatever. I'm not even offering to rake their lawn. I'm not offering to like shovel or anything. I'm like, just give me money. Just give me money. And so naturally they all said, my one of my friend's dad owned a company, and he gave me a check for $1,000. And I was like, holy crap, like I can do this. And so I gave it a good another month, and I must have knocked on thousands of doors, and I raised like $560 or something on top of that. And I just realized this just wasn't going to work that way. I couldn't, by the time I raised my $25,000, I would have been, graduated from college. Right. So I gave all the money back. I went and gave the money back to everybody. And I said, well, that was an interesting idea. Didn't look to actually do my own business again until after I'd started my first career. So I was in my mid-20s, financial analyst at Nordstrom. I said, all right, time to strike out again, and opened up a production company in Seattle doing TV commercials and radio ads.
Okay. And why? Why was that something you wanted to do at that point?
Well, it's a heck of a lot sexier than being a financial analyst. That's for sure.
But you were at Nordstrom.
I was, which is a great company. Loved Nordstrom. Nordstrom gave me foundationally my leadership style, like that supportive leadership style, the customer service. Great company. Loved it. Learned so much from that company. The open door policy where you could always go talk to anybody, any manager or leader. It was amazing experience. But after 6 years of pushing Excel spreadsheets, and I was responsible for a $33 million P&L, which was pretty big as my first career, I was the sole and only financial analyst for the flagship store in downtown. So I was the only one who did all of our variance analysis and AP and AR stuff. And so I just really learned a lot about just how corporate finance works and managing money on a larger scale. And so I was like, I knew a guy who ran a production company, but he did it out of his closet. I said, I think I can raise some money for us. And we went and raised $510,000 or something, $520,000, and then started our company. And he was the production side. I was the business side. And then I made every business mistake you could possibly make. I bought $18,000 jib arms to hold cameras that do these fancy swinging things for jobs we didn't even have. We didn't even have a job. And I'm just buying equipment. I'm like, well, we got to be a production studio, right? We need the production studio stuff. So I just bought everything, hired 6 employees with no customers. We had no customers, and I had a staff of 6. And none of them were salespeople, by the way. They were all staff. So we were ready, though.
That would be one thing. It was 3
so
sales.
ready. We were so ready. If somebody had knocked on our door, we would have crushed it. And then we went out of business 16 months later. Just crash and burned.
Oh my goodness. That's a great story, though. Okay, on a different note, a lot of business owners are, I don't know, especially now, just generally struggling with time, right? Having enough time to do everything. What advice would you give business owners who are struggling with not having enough time?
Oh man, that is a big one. Time is a challenge. On one level, there's a compulsory need to feel like you got to get everything done. Mm-hmm. First off, that's the first thing that I got rid of, was this need to feel like everything has to be done, and just becoming okay with the fact that some things are actually going to fall through the cracks. And if it's important enough, hopefully somebody else will bring it up again later. You know what I mean? It's just too much, especially at the beginning. I mean, we're in the same phase right now. I'm right back in startup mode, which I swore I would never do again. And here we are trying to build a user base from scratch. Crap, stuff's falling through the cracks all over the place. Mm-hmm. And that's okay, because we're going to grow, and then we'll fix the pieces later. That's one piece of the puzzle. The other piece is just becoming incredibly compartmentalized with your time. Mm-hmm. So, I don't check email all day long. I don't log into social media unless I have to for some very important reason, or if I'm on a break. I take breaks. You have to take breaks. I mean, you need to treat it like a job, not if I just keep running, I will get to where I need to go, because you will collapse. Even the longest distance crazy runners who run 200 miles take breaks. They rest, they get water, they get food. You need to do that. So you have to keep yourself in check. That'll help with your time a lot. And then seriously, at minimum 15 minutes a day of thinking. You will find more efficient ways to do what you're doing if you stop doing them. And people don't. They just think that if I just keep running faster, I will get there. But that's just going to cost you more time and just getting sluggish.
Right. I remember Sasha Strauss at one of I think it was the second EO. I forget the conference we put together in California for the West, but he challenged everybody in the room to go sit somewhere quietly for a half hour. Yeah. And he's like, and I know you're going to be stir crazy and itchy and I can't do this. And he wanted you to increase that, but that was 15 years ago maybe. And I still remember that and really challenging and going out and literally doing it. You take a pen and paper, but that's it. Yeah. Right. Nothing else, no other distractions, turn your phone off, all that other stuff. And that's powerful. That's That's great. Great advice. So what's your proudest moment in business of all the things you've done?
Oh, proudest moments. Everyone listening to this will understand the intense roller coaster of the act of creating something from nothing, right? You're literally like you're like lifting it out and just like creating it on your shoulders and carrying it. And sometimes we forget to step back for a second and look around the room and actually take in what has happened. And I remember it was with our last project, and it was, it was a nonprofit, and we built a school, but it was still a business, right? I still had to raise money and had to raise hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then go like build the thing and hire the people and all these other components. And it was exhausting. And there was an event where we had the students showing off their projects to the community. And so we invited a bunch of community partners and friends and people. And some of our students, they come from really rough households, and they didn't have parents that were coming. Mom got drunk and called and said, I can't make it tonight. And, we weren't really surprised, but we had packed the room with people who were there to support. And I was running around, and I was making sure everybody's taken care of, and I was making sure I was talking to the donors, and I was making sure that I was talking to this. And then I took 1 second and I just stopped, and I stepped back into the corner of the room, and I just looked out over what was going on. And those are the moments you got to go for. It's not when you hit the $1 million in rev. It's a huge accomplishment. It's hard to do. It's an amazing feeling. That's great. But then you're just going to be right on to like,
what's the next month?
Yeah. Where's my 5 million? It's those, when I ran my last marketing agency, before I sold it, I remember sitting around and having an office party, and everybody had their significant others, and they were all there, and they were toasting and cheersing and hugging and telling stories and laughing. And I was kind of put myself in the back of the room and just looked and thought, man, all these people are together here because all the hard work that my partner and I did to do this. Like, this is awesome. Like, we are their career. Like, how cool is that? Like, that's such an awesome, like, responsibility, and yet something so cool to have been a part of, and those to me are the proudest moments.
That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that. So what's the biggest thing you've learned recently that you wish you had learned, 10, 20 years ago?
Well, the 10 and 20 year ago me was a little bit rambunctious, a little bit too crazy. We
have a trunk story about that too.
A Trump story?
Trunk.
Oh, trunk story. Yeah.
We don't need to go into that here.
That wasn't even 20 years ago.
No,
it may or may not involve me getting in the trunk of an Uber. I can neither confirm nor deny that happened. My wife was pissed. Just like, what do you mean you got in the trunk of a car to go somewhere? What is wrong with you?
Well, we ran out of seats.
So. Yeah, well, I wanted to get there. It was just the next happy hour. It wasn't like we were actually going anywhere overly important. So, lessons learned today that I wish I had known. I would say treating my employees as though they are my customers. So not just being grateful for your staff, but going out of your way to do things for your team that are special. Like I used to spend so much time thinking about how do I, you can make the company culture great. That's awesome and important. How do I help, deliver some unique marketing thing to my customer so that they're wowed about it? Well, how do I wow my staff? Like, what do I do? I just took over a company. That's a weird position to be in, right? I now have an employee who's one of the co-founders, and so we're like partners. We're both at equity, but it's kind of weird because I came in as CEO and he was co-founder. And so there's a little bit of an odd moment there, right?
Sure.
Where although he's not my employee, you feel that kind of tension. And so he was talking about how, he wants to be at the pirate phase of business right now, where we're not the Navy, we're the pirate ships. We're tackling stuff, and I was like, oh, I love it, and he loves Belgian beer. So I've been asking questions to learn a little bit about him and what he's interested in and what he's about. And so I just ordered a Jolly Roger flag, pirate flag, and I'm going to put our logo on the flag. And then I got him a glass, just a beer stein with our logo on it. And I'm going to send him a nice Belgian beer that he would enjoy, and the glass and the flag, and I'm going
to send it to him. You have to get the Perot.
The what? Oh,
there's a Belgian beer Perot.
Yeah, that's a good. Oh, that's perfect.
That's the perfect.
That's Belgian what I'm going to do. There you go. See, I'm so glad that I came here today, Sturdy. You helped me finish this package. But it's perfect. It's super individualized, right? It's like me saying, yes, I appreciate you, and you are someone that I pay attention to. And I would say the earlier me focus simply on making company culture awesome, and that would then suffice the rest. Be like a nice, good manager and a good leader, and then make a good culture. And I think that there's room to take that a step further. That's
really cool. I love that. Yeah. And remember the Perot beer. Can you share with us like a favorite business book of yours and why you think it, or maybe even something you're currently reading, but why it's important? What's important about it?
So there's two that I want to share. I know you asked for one, but
no, that's fine.
There's one I'm reading now, and one of my favorites of all time. So the one of my favorites of all time is Influence by Dr. Robert Cialdini. It is phenomenal book about understanding how people make decisions. Like how do people process information and then take that information and take action on it is really important in any marketing, business development, selling to stakeholders, anything. Anytime that you have to position yourself and try to get a result from anybody, this book talks about the psychology behind it, the cognitive psychology behind how people make decisions. Fascinating book. It's one of my all-time favorites. I just finished Blitzscaling.
Okay.
Yeah, Blitzscaling. And Blitzscaling is one of those books that is about like literally how to scale to $1 billion. And I got to look up the author because I literally finished it like yesterday morning. So I want to make sure that I give the author due credit here so that So it's The Lightning Fast Pathway to Building Massively Valuable Companies by the forewords by Bill Gates. Reid Hoffman's one of the authors. Chris Yee is one of the authors. So, Reid from Netflix, Chris from PayPal. And, it's about bajillion-dollar companies, like how to hit the gas pedal. And they're like, oh, well, when your company's small and you're still in the family stage at 100 employees, I'm like, family stage at 100 employees? What the hell's wrong with you? And he's like, once you start getting bigger and once you've got 1,000 people, then it gets a little more interesting. And then when you're at 10,000 employees, you really can start thinking. And I'm like, okay, now I've never built a 10,000 employee company, and that's okay. The idea to push myself to adopt strategies that can grow my company in a way that can mimic a company like that is an important strategy. Like sometimes you need to be pushed, not for just a BHAG, like having a big, huge, hairy, audacious goal is nice. But I'm talking about like structurally, what are you doing to just freaking hit the pedal and just go?
I love it. Okay, cool. I'll have to check those out. I'm definitely not familiar with blitzscaling at all. So what other business owners or CEOs or business leaders would you like to acknowledge as a leader and should be a future guest on the podcast?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, EO alone, right, is all of them.
Right.
So I think
send me a list later.
Yeah, outside of the EO network, of which there are many, I would say Tyson McDowell. Tyson McDowell built a software company, sold it a few years back, and now is a venture capital guy down here in San Diego. His partner in his venture capital firm was Bill Gates' CTO. So these guys are very legit. Tyson's super wicked smart, very, very quick, and has a keen eye for connecting dots and a passion for making a difference. So he's really on that like social impact cusping side of things, of how to make a social impact along with making a profit impact. And then Ryan Foland would be another one. And so Ryan, he's a professor. He talks a lot about authenticity and how to use authenticity in business development. So it's not just about like, oh, we need to be authentic, which is important. And I understand that. But he's like, right. And that's how you're going to make a killing and make a ton of money. And that I really appreciate. Like, let's talk about why the authenticity should lead to the results and how that mechanism happens. And that's his latest book. He's also a branding genius. So those are two that jump out right away.
Thanks. That's awesome. I love that too, because there's got to be an application for this stuff.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, people like to say there are no expenses in business, they're only investments, but I take that further to not just money, but your time, your effort, your emotional energy, all the rest of it. If you're putting it into the business, what's the return in some way, shape, or form? What's the application? That's cool. Thank you for that. Are there any other thoughts that you want to leave the audience with that we haven't hit on yet?
Something I've started doing recently, probably should have started a long time ago. Maybe a lot of the people listening are doing this right now, but I have started to check in with friends that I haven't talked with in a while to see how they're doing. And it's been cathartic for me too. I think that as a business owner, we sometimes lean in on our resilience and our ability to just power through. And during times like these right now, whether your business has been negatively impacted or not, your world has been completely changed.
Right.
And it's okay to acknowledge that. The other day I realized I read some quote online and it just resonated so well that it's okay to be not okay. Like we can't pretend like it's all okay. Even if business is doing well, it's not all okay. And then I took it another step and said, man, am I checking in with the people that have come across me in my life that maybe I haven't talked to in a few years for whatever reason, and just reaching out and saying, hey, how you doing? Just we don't have to talk about anything heavy. Just want to say hi and just see, hope you're doing well. And it's been good.
That's cool. Yeah, thanks. That's a great final kind of thought here to leave folks with. But I really, really appreciate being here, Jabez. We'll put the links and stuff especially to Applejacks and the book recommendations and stuff as well when we publish the podcast. So check that out. And thank you so much for doing this. It's awesome.
Thanks for having me, Sturdy. It's really good to see you.
You too.